I said, it's nothing. I said, look at Martha and the Vandellas. We want a hit like theirs. We want a soulful record. And he said, Mary, trust me, this is going to be a hit. I started crying. I mean, I was begging the guy, please give us a hit. This is how desperate we had become.
But now that I surrender so helplessly, you know wanna leave. You wanna leave. Baby, baby, where did our love go? Don't you want me? Don't you want me no more?
The song was the first of 5 number ones running for the Supremes, and they joined the other artists on what had become a company institution, the Touring Motown Revue.
How about a raise a differentiate? I was smoking Robinson in style for the style review. Thank you, kind of ladies and gentlemen. Yours truly, Bill Murray, saying thanks on behalf of the entire show. And don't forget to keep in mind, once again,
the Motown Revue, the very first one was 94 one-nighters. That's 3 months of living on a bus. Out of those 94 one-nighters, we had about 3 hotel stays. So it was actually sitting on that crowded bus with a 12-piece band and 8 or 9 acts.
That was also in the days of the Freedom Riders. And when they see this bus, we came to get gas. And as we stepped out of the bus to go to the Johns, we looked down the street, and all the little houses along the street had people standing in the doorway. And behind the door was a shotgun.
There were a lot of restaurants that we went in where we had to actually go in the back door and have cold hot chocolate and cold hot dogs. And that's all that we were served.
I remember one place in Texas specifically that we went to the back, and we had to wend our way through the garbage cans to a little window about the size of, I guess about that size. And man, they would put our plates paper plates through the window, and we ate on the garbage cans.
Oh yes, wait a minute, Mr. Postman. Wait.
But racism was not the only problem Motown faced with its artists.
Oh yeah.
Before any of the tours really were established, Georgiana from the Marvelettes walked out on the stage. They said, now the Marvelettes. And she walked out on the stage with her eyes wide and chewing gum and looking at all the people and said, it's just country style. And I said, it's not gonna work. We gotta have a department that would groom the kids. And since most of them were ghetto kids that came from single parent homes, and didn't have all the cultural tactics that's needed, we decided to give it to them.
They asked me to open up the finishing school there, Motown Finishing School. Of course, the youngsters, they came from humble beginning, and some were rude and crude and from the street and the project. But with me, it isn't where you come from, it's where you're going.
She taught us how to be elegant, and that's what we wanted. It wasn't something, we weren't being taught something that we didn't want. We wanted to be better. We wanted to, aspire to be the best. She'll say, now ladies. Golly, we used to hate her then.
She was the brunt of a lot of jokes, I'll say that, because as young girls, we didn't take her seriously. But I did in my heart, and I applied everything she taught me. And I can't really do anything now without thinking of Mrs. Powell. If I sit, if I talk, if I walk, if I carry myself at all, Miss Powell is there.
Marvin Gaye said to me one day, Miss Powell, he called the finishing school the charm school. Miss Powell, I don't think I need a charm school, and I don't think I need any training. I said, Marvin, you don't need as much as some of the other artists, but you do sing with your eyes closed.
I'm a stubborn kind of fella, got my mind made up to love you.
And it gives the illusion that you're singing in your sleep. And number one places around the country, you have to have your eyes open. Then we could improve on your walk because you're leading with your shoulders and your head. Everything had to be done in a classy way. So if they were doing the shake or whatever, well, we didn't do it in a vulgar way.
Count the times you slide, you know how many times I've cried.
With Diana Ross and the Supremes, we worked on singing and expressing yourself, looking pleasant and with a smile and maybe a gesture, and how to handle a mic, you see, so that the mic don't handle you. I don't want you ever to look forward, lean forward. You do not protrude the buttocks.
In many cases, the artists just went out and they sang and danced and they jumped around. And they wasn't accustomed to having to be concerned about projection and physical drama. You had to add a lot of movement that would be attractive to the ladies, and the ladies had to do movements that would attract the men.
I've been crying, cause I'm lonely for you.
Sometimes when I was working with the Supremes on that movement, Mary used to say to me, "You're trying to teach me how to look ladylike," which is exactly what I was doing, because I was giving them moves like very feminine moves where you use your shoulders, wave your hands, and all this kind of business, and keep you so that the fellas are going to really notice what you're putting down.
We would go into artist development at Motown and work on a song, and it would take hours. And we put in hours every day learning those routines. People have often said that Motown kind of made us over and made us into these sophisticated little dolls, you know. But I think that's something that we brought within ourselves. And so Charlie was able to keep us the way we were, but still keep that sophistication and to keep it sexy and to keep the rock and roll, all that as one unit.
Charlie really started turning up the heat on as far as polishing us and spending more time in artist development, because it got to the point that we would be there so much that, man, we were getting tired of looking at each other. But it was worth it because they were grooming us for the real big stage, the Copacabanas, the Las Vegas, the Atlantic Cities, and what have you. Sometimes
we would find that a move might be quite primitive, something that you would see just on the R&B circuit. It would go something like this here. So what we would do for the presentation and the crossover is try to bring it up and give it a little bit more sophistication. It would look something like this here.
By 1967, Motown acts were playing Las Vegas, The Ed Sullivan Show, and many of the biggest venues across the world. Berry Gordy's goal of producing a constant assembly line of sophisticated pop entertainers had become a reality. For many, Motown's success was Black America's success. A musical accompaniment to the quest for equality led by Dr. Martin Luther King.
Where did our love go? Ooh, don't you want me, baby? Don't you want me no more? Ooh, baby.
But to some, the Motor City Company had started to polish its artists too much for white audiences with its cabaret presentation.
With a song in my heart.
For these dissenters, you could still find the real soulful music, but you had to go down south.
I'm gonna wait till the midnight hour. That's when my love comes tumbling down.
What the Temptations did, what the Four Tops did, what Diana Ross and the Supremes did, all of them were top records across the world. But they were da 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 da. But the minute you crossed the Mason and Dixon line and got down here in Memphis, altogether different. See?
You would hear songs at Motown that had the influence of the church in the melody, but they would polish it, and they did a marvelous job at doing that. At Stax, we didn't. We just let it all hang out. We went for it, and whatever it was, that's what it was. Whatever you felt, that's what it was.
Stax Records took its name from founder Jim Stewart and his sister Estelle Axton. An early hit in 1960 by local legend Rufus Thomas and his daughter Carla had convinced Stewart to produce more black music. And in 1965, Stax caught the ear of the legendary Jerry Wexler.
It really turned me on to watch the way they recorded, because it was entirely different from what we had been doing in New York and from what everybody else was doing around the country, which was recording with written arrangements, arrangers, and studio players who read the charts.
You didn't have to prepare music. You played a song for them once. The artist could sit down and play or sing them the song once. They learned the song. No music in front of them telling them go from here to there to there. They learned the song. And they had this intimate relationship with each other where if after they listened to the song once, they say, you take the first verse, you do the fills here, I'll stay out, then you can. About 2 or 3 takes, they learned the song faster than you were prepared to record it.
One of the keys to the spontaneity of Stax recordings was the tight rhythm section, Booker T and the MGs. Despite the fact that Memphis in the early 60s was very much a segregated city, the Stax studio band was built around a multiracial quartet.
We just looked away from the fact that it had never been done before, and we just did it. We played the black clubs, and we played the white clubs, and we stayed in white hotels, we stayed in black hotels, we ate in white restaurants and black restaurants, and we broke the rules.
The MGs, along with Stax's horn section and the writer-producer team of Isaac Hayes and David Porter, powered a host of artists, including Sam and Dave, Otis Redding, and a former gospel singer Jerry Wexler was producing.
Steal away, I ain't got long to stay here. I said I ain't got long to stay here.
Wilson Pickett sang on a lot of gospel stuff. And one of the things, when he would get into his sort of sanctified groove on the end, you know, he would go, oh, I want to wait till the midnight hour, see my Jesus in the midnight hour, that kind of stuff, you know. It's kind of an ID for this guy, you know.
I would always put that in somewhere in the song, in the midnight hour, in the gospel song. I may meet Jesus. It may be soon in the morning, or it may be in the midnight hour. You see,